Hello, welcome to Poppin Predictions, where we believe movies aren't over at the end, but are meant to be continued. You're here with Andy and Marqueze, where we ponder what happens in the story once the credits begin to roll. On today's episode, we will be reviewing the 2010 psychological thriller Black Swan. This film follows a committed dancer who struggles to maintain her sanity after winning the lead role in a Chai Kowalski's production of Swan Lake. This movie is rated R for strong sexual content, disturbing violent images, language, and some drug use. As always, spoilers ahead. Now, before I toss it to Marqueze, we are doing something a little bit different for this episode. Usually, we watch a movie, we decompress for a little bit. I usually watch a couple YouTube videos here and there, or just try to figure out a little bit more about the movies. But today, for this episode, we just finished watching the movie, and it's fresh in our minds, fresh and ready to go. And that being said, Marqueze, why don't you go ahead and tell us what this movie's about?
Yes. So yeah, we literally just finished it 15 minutes ago, maybe, if that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Black Swan. This movie follows basically like the story of an obsessed artist, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever seen the movie Whiplash, which we will be making numerous comparisons to, you'll kind of understand that idea.
Go ahead and listen to it if you haven't already. Episode 18.
Yes, we've done a review of that movie. Definitely checking out one of our better episodes. But anywho, so Black Swan follows this dancer, this ballet dancer, and she's played, her name's Nina, but she's played by Natalie Portman, and Natalie Portman does a great job in this role.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this dancer who wants to be, you know, like the best dancer ever, you know. She wants to be perfect, you know. She says that very early on from the beginning. And she's technically really great and all that. But the role she's going for is in this production of Swan Lake, Lake. And she needs to, the lead role embodies two characters, the White Swan and the Black Swan. And the Black Swan is, you know, technical perfection and like purity and very clean. Whereas
That's
the Black
Swan.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Did I say White Swan or Black Swan?
Yeah, you said Black Swan.
Okay, my bad. I went White Swan. The White Swan's the one of purity and like very technically precise and, you know, very nice and sweet. Whereas the Black Swan is much more loose and wild and like sensual, you know, but still just as perfect, if not possibly even more perfect. The movie continues to hint. And the play follows the story of a girl who falls in love with the guy, but then the guy is taken by another girl, if I'm correct, right? And
he starts falling for.
He starts falling for another girl. Seduces the guy she's in love with, and so the main girl then turns into a swan. And unless she could win her lovers back, she ends up killing herself.
Yes.
And so the story ends with the girl killing herself because she pretty much, the man got stolen from her by another girl, right?
Yes.
So that's the story of Swan Lake. And so this is like a ballet version play of it. So this movie pretty much is her, you know, working to be this role, and like her coach is constantly telling her, we know you can do the White Swan. You know, you're technically perfect. You know, you do all these things right, but like you don't have the fierceness, you don't have the passion to be the Black Swan. And he actually puts her in the role of the Swan Queen, which is the lead role, really before he's even like really able to like see her play a Black Swan. He like there's a hint of it possibility being there, but he doesn't see it. And so like, similar to the movie Whiplash, the character is put into a lead role, even though they're not ready. And the coach uses that as a way to actually force them to get to this level of, you know, this high achievement, or this level of perfection.
Kind of the opposite. I mean, like, yes, like that's what it is, but like kind of like from the opposite perspective, because in Whiplash, like Andrew is competing for the starting gig. Mm-hmm. And then once he gets it, he doesn't want to let it go. Whereas Nina is like, you know, first she's told she's not going to get it, and then there's a scene where Nina bites the lip of the director Thomas. Like he bites, like he's making a move on her, and he bites, and she bites him, and so that's how she gets the role, because she thought it was going to be this other person, Veronica. Mm-hmm. But then so from Black Swan's perspective, like Nina is from the lead, and the thing that's driving her is like her alternate, who is played by Mila Kunis, Lily,
who also does a great role too.
Yes,
great job.
Yes,
but yeah. So either way, so the movie's really good. It's really great, and immediately because I saw Whiplash first, even though this movie came out way earlier, I saw Whiplash first, and so I'm as soon as the movie starts, I'm immediately comparing it to Whiplash.
Yeah.
Except I actually think this movie is the inverse in another way too. So we actually had a big argument about this on the Whiplash one, but I said it was more so the coach that was like really bringing it out of Andrew, who's the main character Whiplash. Like Andrew wouldn't have gotten there without the coach. The coach really had to like keep raising that bar in order for him to get there. I think the opposite with this film.
Yes, for sure.
With this film, Nina is 100% dedicated and wants to be perfect from the beginning, and that's made very clear.
Yes.
Whereas in Whiplash, and I've argued with this a few people, I don't think that's as clear. I think Andrew wants to be great, and he thinks he's going to be great, but you don't see that like perfection obsessive drive that you see in Nina from the very start. And so I think Nina would have gotten there either way, but her coach...
Well,
go ahead.
No, this is gonna be fun.
Are we opposite to argue the opposite sides now?
It's funny. I don't know. Maybe this because of the fact that like we just watched this movie. I'll probably be processing this out loud and might like flip flop as we go along. But like, I agree that Nina is a very talented dancer, ballet dancer. She's super talented. I think that, like from what we've seen, she was very technically sound. But I don't think she would have gotten to. Yeah, I basically am flip flopping here. I think it's different with Whiplash because Whiplash, like I will go back and with the caveat say that. When we had our discussion for Whiplash, I was initially interpreting your take as that no one can do it without anyone pushing you, when in reality you were saying that Andrew, just like specifically Andrew. And so with that being said, like I can agree to that in Whiplash's case, like Andrew needed the external force to push him. I think that if Lily didn't come in the picture, I think if Thomas wasn't in the picture, like Thomas was the director, but like if Thomas was like less so focused on Lily and like really more, not to say that Thomas wasn't trying to encourage Nina to grow, but from Nina's perspective, she was always feeling compared to Lily. And so I think if Lily was never in the picture, that I don't think that Nina would have gotten to the level that Thomas needed Nina to get to. Because the difference between Whiplash and Black Swan is that we're following Andrew, and the external force is what's driving him to reach that perfection. And the difference with Black Swan is that it's all internal. And so, yes, like I was saying, Nina is a very talented dancer, but I don't think she would have made it to perfection, her words, perfection, if she didn't make Lily the bad person and use her as the driving force to make her better.
Oh man, this is so wild. How I agree with you and completely disagree with you at the same time. Because there's parts you're saying there, I'm like, yes, and there's other parts where I'm like, no. Okay, so let me explain. So I 100% agree that it's internal. That for this in this movie, that Nina is the one pushing that, whereas for Whiplash, it was external. I think it was what was his name? The coach's name? Fletcher, yeah. I think it was Fletcher, the one who was pulling it out of Andrew, like really getting him to achieve a certain level of craftsmanship. Yeah. So that being said, I think that if it wasn't for Fletcher, if it was like any other coach or whatever, Andrew would have never gotten to that point because once again, it was an external thing that was causing it. With Nina, I believe it was so internal that though her coach Thomas and her kind of adversary Lily, though they were the ones that she ended up using to get to that level, I really think she 100% was the one using them to get to that level.
Yeah.
I think that you could replace those characters with like, let's say, anyone else in her life, and she still would have found a way to use them to get to that level, because she interpreted things Lily did, and when we'll get to this later because the movie kind of keeps you unclear of what's ever like really going on, but she's interpreting all these things with Lily that's kind of helping her subconsciously get to the level that she should be. Like, she becomes her own Fletcher in a way. Like, she, even though there's external forces, she's the one pulling herself. And so I don't think that there's any specificity to it being her coach or Lily or Veronica for the short bit. Like, anyone who would have been in her way, she would have used to get there. Whereas for Whiplash, for Andrew, I think it's like very specifically him and his relationship with Fletcher. Like, in this movie, the coach, he was doing something, but he wasn't all that matters. Lily, she was definitely doing something, but she wasn't all that matters. It was like a much more even spread out view of mainly focusing on the artist. Whereas in Whiplash, I feel like the focus is almost evenly between the artist and the coach.
Oh yeah. No, maybe I didn't explain my take as precisely, but like that's literally what I was trying to say. Was that like literally anyone could be in the shoes, and like it's also internal. But what I was trying to say was that the director, like, probably unknowingly played a part in the ending.
Director and the production.
And Lily. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure when that's the director of the film. I don't want anyone to get mistaken when you see the director.
No, Thomas. Thomas. Yeah. He unknowingly played a part in Nina's fate. Mm-hmm. But I don't, like, you could have any, like I was saying, like, you could throw Fletcher in here and like, that would be great. That'd be interesting. That'd be wild. If you threw Fletcher into this, honestly, I would love to see that. I would love to see, because the thing with Thomas, the director's character, is that I think the actor that did a phenomenal job. Like, I'm not trying to take away from anything, but like the way that J.K. Simmons played Fletcher, in that person that like constantly is there to drive them, like, it was just such a remarkable performance that I think that if you threw Fletcher in here, that would have been such a nice, an amazing twist. Yeah. Because then the argument would be like, who pushed her to do it? Was it like her internal struggles for perfection, or was it the external pressure from a really demanding, challenging coach? Mm-hmm. Which is not something that I got from Thomas. Like, he was kind of like saying, like, I wish you would be more like Lily when you were trying to be the Black Swan, because of her motions and the way that she moves her body. Like, she's not technically sound by any means, but like the way that she does the Black Swan dance, like,
it's like seductive. It's supposed to be a seductive character.
And like Nina is like straight edge, like yeah, just not that character.
It's supposed to be quote unquote like innocent, like the very innocent, like White Swan, very pure and innocent.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, this is probably what the movie was going for, but like the movie was the movie was about the creation of Swan Lake, or this production of Swan Lake, but like in reality, what we saw was the real life actors, quote unquote, like performing Swan Lake in real life.
Yeah, exactly. That's something I was going to mention,
because that's 100%. Lily is Lily is Nina's Black Swan. 100%. Like that's just how it is. Like, she's like, Lily plays a very seductive character. Mm-hmm. Nina fantasizes about Lily to the point where she has some erotic dreams. Like, Lily is 100% like Nina's Black Swan. Mm-hmm. And then the Thomas is definitely like the person that's like they're going for. They're both trying to get the contention. Lily, and this is probably the most innocent character, like in terms of like her role in the grand scheme of things, because like,
she's being used the entire movie.
Yes,
The
basically,
entire
like
movie, she's being manipulated.
like where Fletcher used like the person who was already the lead drummer as kind of motivation for Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Like Thomas is using Lily as the alternate to push Nina to
Yeah,
perfection.
yeah. Which I mean, Fletcher does halfway through the movie at one point. He gets an alternate to
Yeah.
kind of push him, but like once again, the focus is so much between the coach and Andrew and Whiplash. So like it's for that and that aspect is such a different movie that the focus is like really between their relationship and how they are constantly pushing each other back and forth to achieve. Whereas this one, the coach is just a small aspect of it. Like it's her coach, it's her mother, it's Lily, it's her dealing with her own inner demons of like needing perfection. And yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot. But I have a couple questions I want to ask you about the film.
Okay. That's dang. I was going to ask you a question, but you go first.
All right. I got two particularly that I kind of want to ask you. So the first one is I kind of want to get it out there. Which did you like better as of now, Whiplash or this one, Black Swan? I promise we will talk more just about Black Swan. We won't keep comparing it to Whiplash. I just want to get out though.
I feel like we've been doing a good. Oh no, that is such a tough question. That's almost unfair because we just finished watching Black Swan, and we watched. Not to say that Whiplash was that long ago, but it's not as fresh in my mind. I really want to say Black Swan.
Really?
I really want to say Black Swan.
Why?
It's not even anything bad about Whiplash. Like Whiplash is a phenomenal movie. I just think that in terms of storytelling, there's a lot to this one. There's a lot more to this one than Whiplash. Whiplash was pretty straightforward in that like it was about Andrew's pursuit of becoming a legend and like doing what it needed to take. Whereas Black Swan, sort of similar in that like Nina's trying to pursue perfection, but like the way that they tell the stories are completely different. Where it's like I like the internal struggle a little bit more than I guess I like the internal struggle a little bit more because it becomes a little bit of like a psychological thriller sort of aspect. There's more. I feel like there's more dimensions and more layers to Black Swan than there is to Whiplash. That being said, like Whiplash was a fantastic movie, and so it's really hard to. I don't know. That was a really hard one. What about you? I know you really like Whiplash. What do you think?
I fully agree with one of your last statements you just made, and that this one has so many more layers to it. Like I said, Whiplash is very much focused. Even though there's other characters, there might as well not be. Like it's so focused between Andrew and Fletcher. Whereas this film, it's so much more dynamic. Like there's her trying to be the best ballet, dancer, which is where it's obviously like equal to Whiplash. But then there's well, actually, I'll ask that last because it gets into the next question. So there's that. Then there's her and her relationship with her mother. Whereas in Whiplash, her Andrew's father plays almost no role at all. He's very insignificant. Whereas in this movie, Nina's mother
is very important.
Very important.
Like, the mom is very important.
She like heavily mothers Nina to where like Nina's almost like a child to her. Like she treats Nina like a child. Like she dresses her. She does this sometimes. Like she really kind of like is that overbearing mother role very much. And she was an ex-dancer herself.
I mean, she pushed. Yeah, exactly.
And she has like portraits of her daughter. She's an artist. And she draws portraits of her daughter.
She like idolizes.
She's obsessed with her daughter. She's like straight up obsessed with her daughter. So that's a whole dynamic. And then
that's because like she like couldn't make it. I think they kind of alluded to that.
Yeah,
like,
she wasn't good enough or something like that, right? Or...
Well, that yes, but also I was going to say that the mom. I think the mom got pregnant young.
Oh, that's right.
So,
they did allude to that, yeah.
Yes, they did allude to that. That like she got pregnant young, and that she was pushing her dreams onto Nina.
Yeah.
Like the mom was pushing her dreams onto Nina. Yeah. So like, yeah.
And with this, Nina once again has been obsessed from the beginning. There's nothing else that she seems to want, Whereas in Whiplash, like he's out, he's going to the movies, he's like trying to go on a date with the girl. There's other things to his life before Fletcher really makes him focus on solely drums, where in this movie, ballet's the focus for Nina from the very like first scene you see with her. It's the focus. And so, okay, so this is going to lead me to my next question, though, is another big difference in the films is the heaviness of the theme of sexuality and
Right.
Nina's sexuality. That's one thing I did not, like, I 100% was blindsided by, I did not know coming into this film, was that they make that a huge, like, center focus for this film. Is once again, her mother treats her like a child, and she kind of acts like a child in all respects. She doesn't really have like a sexual side to her, as far as we could tell. Like, or at least it's not expressed in the film until other people are constantly trying to pull it out of her. Like, kind of, like it's almost like her maturing into like the Swan or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like these other people are constantly trying to manipulate her sexuality in these different ways, and the film almost seems to end with her finally coming into her own of like, I control my sexuality. I'm doing what I want. So I just thought it's wild how big of a theme it played in this movie. Like, what do you think about that?
About
like that being such a big theme, her sexuality being such a big theme in the film.
I mean, I think that plays like it's a pivotal part of the plot. It's just like her coming to not even grips, but to terms with who she is. I don't, you can't really for sure say that she's gay, but like you can definitely at least make the argument that she's curious. By like the scene that she has with Lily. I don't know. It's definitely a very pivotal part of the movie, because like we said, like the movie Black Swan is almost more so about like the external performance of Swan Lake, if that makes sense, where like you have Nina, who's like the super pure white swan, you have Lily, who's the black swan, and so like I think we were still seeing the production of Swan Lake told outside of the stage, and so like seeing Nina go from a super pure, like, I'm uncomfortable with any sort of romantic exchanges, to this person who truly like almost like accepts herself and like, like comes to her own. Like, I think that was a really pivotal part of the plot. And so like her sexual development is really important for this.
Yeah, no, I was very surprised by how much it was important. And like I said, that was the first thing that showed me like, wow, there's layers to this film. Whereas Whiplash was just very focused, which once again, there's a beauty to Whiplash being so focused. Like it's you're able to just like hop on this train and just watch as it gets more and more and more intense. Whereas like with Black Swan, you're constantly like lost and pushed back and forth on what's going on and like who's doing what to who and what's real, and like
exactly.
It's just, there's so many more layers of like you're being pulled in different directions. Whereas Whiplash is just like a train to one direction and you are going there full speed.
I have a question to ask you, and I think that you might know where I'm going. So like before we hopped on to our recording session, we were going to debrief, and I was like, no, wait, let's not debrief. Let's go and record instead. And you were bringing up how obviously this movie brings up a lot of Whiplash vibes, but this movie to you brings up another really, really popular movie's like vibes as well. Like, what other movie does Black Swan kind of remind you of?
Yeah, so as soon as we finished watching the film, one of the first things I said was this. I know I'm just using two later movies to describe an earlier movie, but I said this film to me feels like a mix between Whiplash and Midsommar, which is a high compliment for me, considering Midsommar is my favorite horror film and just one of my top like favorite films in general. Yeah, so here's the reason why. And I know I'm listening to Midsommar, listen to this podcast, it's just the movie. So, but like I actually say it for a good reason, right? So listen. So here's why I kind of feel like it has definitely aspects of Midsommar to me. So first of all, the protagonist, like the story centered on this young female protagonist, right? And It's centered on her, and it's centered around all these different characters in her life who are trying to pull her in different directions. With Black Swan, it's her sexuality that they're all trying to control and use to like pull her in different directions or whatever. In Midsommar, it's her sense of vulnerability and safety that everyone's trying to manipulate. You know, whether you are safe and you can be vulnerable with me or you can't, or hey, you'll be comfortable with me or you'll be comfortable there, you know, whatever. Everyone's using this sense of safety and vulnerability to kind of push the main character and Midsommar. So in that way, it's very similar. And then I also noticed it happens very much earlier in Midsommar, but in both films, at a certain point, the character is given drugs by someone else.
Yes.
And so the main character is given drugs. And then when she takes the drugs, she's in a very elated state. And then for the rest of the film, you have no idea what is real and what's not. Clearly, like in Black Swan, Lily gives Nina drugs and says, "Hey, it'll only be a few hours, I promise." But literally, all the way up until the end of the film, you have no idea what's real and what's not, because it looks like she's tripping the entire time. Midsommar is the same way. Like very early on, like I think maybe only 20 minutes in, maybe less, she drinks like mushroom tea.
The tea,
and from that moment on, she's like rolling and like things that are like don't look real are happening, and she's given drugs more times as the movie goes on too. And so she's constantly in this state of like where things are happening, and they're very strange. Like, is this real or is this not real? And so like it kind of throws you, the audience, in this place of like you're just experiencing this with her, like you're not watching it. Whereas Whiplash, you're not experiencing it with Andrew, you're watching like this thing happen. Both Black Swan and Midsommar, you're experiencing it through the main character. Like you really feel like you are losing it, you know. So that's why it's like Midsommar to me.
So I think it's really cool that you think that this movie is similar to Midsommar as well as Whiplash. I think that this movie is similar to another movie that we've done on the podcast. Obviously, we agree that it's similar to Whiplash, but I think that this movie is similar to Joker as well. Okay. Yeah, and it's kind of similar a little bit to what you are saying for Midsommar, in that, like, you know, for Midsommar, like, you know, you couldn't really trust Dani or what she was seeing after she was drugged. Kind of similar with Nina, like once she's drugged, like you really can't tell what's real and what's not real. But I think I think the reason why it reminds me more of Joker than Midsommar is just because of the style of the movies. Whereas Midsommar was, you know, it's a daytime horror. Kind of like, you know, the daytime kind of distracts you from the fact that like it's a horror film. Whereas, you know, Black Swan is a very dark movie. You know, it kind of caught us off, at least for me, it caught me off guard with how like much of a horror movie it was like.
Yeah, I had no idea. Like I thought it was a drama and a little bit of a thriller, because I mean I heard about it, but like a little bit of a thriller. Like this was a straight up like thriller horror film. Like straight up, like this isn't even drama, it's just a thriller horror film.
Yes. So I think because of the fact that like Joker is a very dark movie that also deals with like the psychological aspect of like, okay, what's real, what's not real. We're being told one thing, but it's not actually the case, or like it's a little bit of that, but it's not 100% that. I kind of see a little bit of that with Black Swan, and that, like, you know, how much of Lily's character was, and like the impact that she had on Nina, like how much of it was actually real? Like, was Lily always out to try to steal her part, or was she supportive? And from Nina's perspective, like Nina interpreted that as like her coming for her role.
Well, think about it. Like the scene where Nina was like, Nina thought that Lily let her oversleep, and Lily was like, I wasn't there, I didn't let you oversleep. And so like she wasn't there trying to get her role that time either. She just, Nina was not there. So,
but Nina was like, no, like you were definitely trying to steal my role. Yeah. And so like, to me, just because of how dark both of the films are, and like you can't really fully trust what we're seeing from Nina, especially after she gets drugged. like you can't really trust anything that she sees and how she interprets anything. It reminds me more of Joker than it does of Midsommar, but I could also see the comparison between the two.
Yeah, and I definitely could see it with Joker too, 100%. But yeah, all right. So for this movie in particular, right? So, I really kind of want to talk just about how much of like an actual psychological thriller this movie is, because I really wasn't ready. I don't know if other people knew way more than me about how much it was.
I wasn't ready either.
But like, I thought this was a thriller to a sense, but like a drama thriller. I don't know. Like,
a thriller.
I didn't think like this was on some like Shutter Island levels. Like this was like a legit psychological thriller. Which IMDb it just says like drama and thriller. I was like, no, we're saying this is psychological thriller. It 100% is. Like I don't know what they're talking about. This is a very intense film, and the music. So this is why
the music was beautiful.
It's oddly enough. Remember how we were saying how like though they're doing the production at Swan Lake, the movie is like the movie in itself is a production at Swan Lake, and so we're watching almost like a ballet play with the orchestra playing in the background. Like I mean, I can't think of a scene in the movie that was quiet.
This is a wild take. This is odd. There were a couple of like insignificant parts, but I think the parts that were quiet, it always led up.
Yeah, it only wrapped like it's very few. Like the movie is covered with the orchestra.
Yeah.
We were actually watching the production at Swan Lake. It's wild.
It's you know what? I was definitely thinking about that the whole time we were watching it. It was just like, wow, like the music in this is phenomenal, which is funny because we did we're going to be doing, I don't know which order the episodes are going to come out, but we did /are doing Manchester by the Sea. And the music in Manchester by the Sea is almost kind of similar to this movie because like, I don't know, they both use like an orchestra. But like, I feel like
this movie was intense, bro.
This movie was intense, and B, the orchestra in Manchester by the Sea to me didn't really fit the movie. Whereas this one, like, I think that
it was much more background. This one, it was like present, like it's supposed to like be right in your face, like right in your face. Every part of this movie was from like the small details to the whole story was really good. I kind of want to talk a little bit about like something that we talked about while we were watching the movie, and like it's not really anything important. It's more so just like a tangent or like a little sidebar sort of thing. But like, what was the first movie that you can remember that used like a smartphone instead of a flip phone? Because like we were like talking about it, where like she's like on the phone, like Nina is on the phone call and she like takes out a flip phone. I was like, whoa, like that's a flip phone. Like, and we like, when did this movie come out? It's like it's 2010, so like iPhones were around. But like they weren't the main. They weren't the main.
They weren't the mainstream.
They were mainstream. Yeah.
So like, do you remember the first movie you saw that like used a smartphone instead of like a flip phone?
So I can't remember the first movie where like everyone, like every character was using a smartphone, but I could at least say like I graduated high school in 2011, and at that time I still had a flip phone, and most people around me had a flip phone. Like I don't remember people really having iPhones and whatnot until like college. It was like super common.
Yeah.
Not like your average person started having like a smartphone, and yeah, definitely not by the time I finished college, everyone had a smartphone for sure. But yeah, around high school was a breaking point to where like, all right, everyone was getting a smartphone because like iPhone was just so expensive and the early Androids were so trash. But like as the Androids started to get a little bit better and better, and they were really, really cheap, then more people got smartphones.
Yeah, I just like remember like I saw that and it instantly made me think of like when I was in high school, which was when this movie came out. Like
I was a senior.
I had one of those like phones that like it was a 2 sliding phone where like it slide one way for phone calls and then like slide the other, like you could still text that way, but then like you slide it the other way and it was really meant for it straight.
They were more like fidget toys, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, they were the first fidget spinners, you know. Honestly, what I would do is like when I was in class, I would sit in my class and like, this is just me now processing this out loud, but like I would sit in class and like shift my phone one way, shift my phone the other way, and let's like do it like the whole time, like the whole class just like fidgeting. And like this is making me think of like fidget spinners, so like how much I would trash on people for using them, and like,
Like,
wow, like, I was
actually,
actually like, now that I'm saying it out loud, like I did the same exact thing just when I was a kid. So, but it was just something that I was just like, wow, they're using a flip phone in a 2010 movie. This is wild. Wait, like smartphones really weren't mainstream yet.
Yeah, I thought that was a funny thing about the movie. So yeah, the music was good. I thought the pacing in this one was good too. There was no
Yes.
notice of the pacing being off for me. Like everything happened in the time that I felt like it should, and it was like the perfect length. But it's like a hour 45, something like that. Like a perfect length
Yeah, it was like,
film.
yeah, it
Wasn't
was,
too long, not too short. Every scene was like good. Like I mean, I'm not gonna say it was a perfect film by any means, but this. I thought that everything
you
that
mean the
needed
film about perfection wasn't
perfection,
perfect?
right?
The pursuit of perfection?
The obsession. But I mean, I definitely felt like this film like had all the important aspects that you really need in a great film.
Yes.
Like the
I think
things were
I
there.
think that something I was like super nervous about was like when I was watching this movie. Like, obviously, this was the first time that either one of us have seen this movie, and the only thing that I knew about this movie was how it ended,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know exactly how it did. Like, I knew like I knew what happened, I didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was watching it the first time in 2021, I see like the first thing I try to do is look up the cast,
Mm-hmm.
and like when you see Naomi Watts, when you see Mila Kunis, Natalie Portman, and a couple of other really famous people, you're like, okay, this movie can either be really good, like phenomenal, or really bad. Because you think of like other really star-studded cast movies that like don't always live up to the hype. And so I was a little nervous going into this movie about which one it was going to be. But I like 100% agree. I think that like the pacing was really done, the acting was like phenomenal. And it just like ended in like such a creative way, like such an awesome way, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Yeah, it was very creative. It was very awesome. And actually, yeah, let's get into this ending. So eventually, okay, so how the movie basically ends, right, is this production, it's the day for the play, right?
Yep.
And Nina goes out there and she, does her, eventually her mom actually calls production studio and says she's sick.
Yeah.
And so her
Yep.
alternate Lily is actually supposed to play the role. But Nina comes in, she's like, no, I'm here, I'm ready to play, like I'm gonna play. And like she tells the coach, like, hey, like I'm playing, like I don't care what you say, like I'm doing the dance. You could tell Lily to go away, like I'm doing the dance. And so he's like, all right, but you got to bring it. So she goes out and she does her, white swan dance, and it's
Yep.
very beautiful. It's very nice. But then at one point she is dropped by the male lead,
Yeah,
and
because she gets distracted because she like sees one of the dancers as
yeah,
like as Lily trying to take her role.
yeah, like mingling with Lily. Was it him? Was that the one he was mingling with? I thought it was him.
Yeah, so like how it was like on the side of the stage, like Lily was doing some sexual gestures to him and like doing some acts like on side stage, but at the same time, like I don't know if that actually happened or if that was something that she was seeing
Yeah.
in her head.
Once again, yeah, like we really don't know. But either way, she gets distracted as she's like lifting her and she falls. And like,
Yes,
and then the director of the whole studio, like he's angry and mad. He's like, what the heck? Like everything's just, messed up now. And so she's crying. She goes into her like little like side room, makeup room, and there's Lily. And she ends up, and Lily's all dressed up as a Black Swan, and Lily's about to go out. She's like, yeah, sometimes, like the Black Swan just has to go out there and do her thing. It'll be fine. Then Nina
exactly.
gets mad. Nina stabs Lily, kills her, and then, but they need a Black Swan out. So Nina dresses up as a Black Swan and goes out and gives the performance of a lifetime. Both
Legendary
legendary.
here.
Both movies. I will say this is an aspect where Whiplash is better, because both movies end with the artist giving their final performance that's supposed to be amazing, and both movies do it well. Don't get me wrong; like both movies give off a cool, great performance, but Whiplash, 100% of my opinion, takes the cake on this one, where like that last final performance, the last final shots of that film are just absolute perfection and like a legendary performance. Whereas for this one, it's just like it's great, but it wasn't just once again non-Whiplash level. Anywho, So she gives off. She gives off this like really amazing.
Earlier in the episode, don't worry, we won't talk too much about Whiplash. Marquise, 20 minutes later, Whiplash had the better ending.
Someone needs to make a meme of this. But yeah, like so she gives off this like really great performance as a Black Swan, and like everybody is fascinated. Like her ballet coach is fascinated. The audience is fascinated. All the other dancers are fascinated. And like at first, all the other dancers were giving her the cold shoulder. Everyone's like jealous of her and all this stuff like that. So they, they were annoyed with her, but everyone's praising her, everyone's clapping. And then as she's in her makeup room, and she's like Lily's body's in the closet, like blood's coming out everywhere. She hears a knock at the door. So then she turns around, goes to the door, and then there's Lily at the door. She's like, "When?" She's like, "What?" And what? Lily is over, and she's like, "You know what? I know we were having like some like issues beforehand with me and your part, but that was an amazing performance. You did amazing. You did a great job." And then Lily goes away, and so then Nina goes and looks in the closet where she thought she put Lily's body, and there's no body there. And so, and then like Nina realizes that she stabbed herself, which is instead of Lily, it's the whole thing's kind of weird, but either way. That was one of the scenes that shows you like she's psychologically using Lily to get to the part she needs to be, to get to where she needs to be, to achieve what she needs to do. Because she had to like mentally like kill Lily and become the Black Swan. Like she really had to like force her mind there. And when she did, she actually achieved the goal of like seeming perfection. And then long story short, after doing the Black Swan role, she goes back out, does the White Swan role again, and this White Swan dies at the end of the story, and then Nina jumps off the like little stage thing onto a mattress, the crowd claps, and then as her coach goes to, congratulate her and say, "Hey, stand up, blah, blah," then everyone noticed that she's bleeding, and so she really did seem to stab herself. Everyone noticed that she's bleeding, and it's all over her dress, and they call ambulance. And then she's like, "I felt it. I did it. I achieved perfection. Or felt like perfection." Then the movie ends.
Yes, and then goes to white. Yep. It goes to white as the audience is cheering and celebrating and stuff like that, which I think is like eerily beautiful. Does that make sense? Exactly. Like it's like they don't know that she's dying behind the scene, but backstage. But like I don't know, it was a little creepy, but like it was the point of the ending. Gosh, you just threw a curveball by saying that Whiplash's ending was better.
Do you disagree?
I think it's just two different. I think the ending for Whiplash fit the ending for Whiplash, and I think the endings are like it's hard.
That's fair. Like I'm talking about specifically the final performance specifically.
Well, even still, like I think that the performance that Lily gave was like Nina gave was like really important and really powerful because it was all building up to that moment, just like in Whiplash, where it was all building up to that moment. And so Nina putting up the performance of the lifetime, like it doesn't matter. It almost does. Yeah. Like to me, it doesn't matter how I interpret it. Like Nina got the reaction that she wanted and she achieved perfection. She proved all of the people wrong by saying that like she couldn't be a perfect Black Swan. Like she like did what she sought out to do. And then she left. Like she passed away knowing that she did what others didn't believe she could do. Whereas the end of Whiplash, like it was building to that moment, but like I think a part of Fletcher always knew that Andrew was going to achieve that perfection, even though if it didn't come across that way.
No, so I guess I'm not arguing like story wise, like what was good or better in that sense. I'm talking about as an audience, as like visually, like me as an audience member, like watching both scenes, I thought Whiplash was much more like interesting and fun to watch. Was that actual drum solo, and then like him and getting an argument with Fletcher, and then everyone's like, "What are you doing?" And then like him and Fletcher are just building up this solo. Like I just thought like as it was shot on film, like as a scene, was a better scene than the final performance that she gave as her Black Swan. I thought in terms of like visually and what the amount of emotion that was communicated, I felt Whiplash did it stronger. But I do think that in terms of story, in terms of what that scene meant for the character and the whole film itself, I do think they actually equally fit each other, though. I'm just saying, as an audience member, to like watch and feel, I thought Whiplash was more invigorating in that scene.
I can definitely agree with like I can see that like Andrew's final performance and from the Whiplash, I could see how it could be stronger. But yeah, let's kind of go into predictions.
Yes.
So I have a couple of theories here. And of course, like this is like right after we finished watching the movie. So usually I have a little bit more time to flesh these things out sometimes. But with this one, I kind of had like a couple things. So I could always pull like a Joker and say how much of this was actually real, how much of it was fake, and like say that none of this was real and that she was in the hospital the whole time. But I feel like that would be kind of a cop out. I think what happens, I think Nina passes away. I don't think they're able to save her. And so if they make the decision to continue on with production, I think that Lily obviously will step in because she's the alternate. Like that's literally her job to step in when the main isn't there or isn't able to. But I think that because of how blown away she was by Nina's performance, I think that like she does a good job, but I don't think she does as good a job as Nina did on that one night. And I think that kind of sticks with her. That like she had the opportunity to do it, but like she saw the greatness of Nina, and I think she's going to live in a constant state of comparing herself to Nina now, and like not able to perform as well as she could have.
So do you think that psychological pressure transfers over to Lily then? For sure.
I don't know. I think for me, I never got the impression that Lily wanted to be perfect, you know? Like, I think when we think of, like, Whiplash, like, when we're talking about... We had this conversation...
Lily's and Andrew.
About this conversation.
I would say Lily's...
You're saying Lily's Andrew? You're going to say Lily's Andrew?
I would say Lily's closer to an Andrew, and that Lily has the ability to be perfect. She just needs to be coached out of her.
So who do you think Nina is then, if you're going to do this?
That's what I'm saying. Nina, Nina and Andrew are obviously the comparable ones, but that's what I'm saying. Okay. That's how Nina's different than Andrew, is that for her, it's all internal, whereas I think for Andrew and Lily, it would both be external.
Yeah, yeah. But I never got the impression that Lily ever wants to be perfect. I think Lily obviously wants to be amazing. I think, to me, Lily always wanted to be great. And I don't
think Andrew to me.
Nina... No, I think Andrew always wanted to be legendary, but was he going to get there was the question.
Gotcha.
I think Lily wants to be great, and I never got the impression that she's seeking out to be perfect, because I think even like when she was interacting with Tom and Andrew at the bar, like I think she was downplaying her role as a dancer, like too much. Like I think she understands that like dancing isn't everything, whereas for Nina, like ballet was life.
Yeah,
like she knew nothing else. So I don't think Lily will ever get to legendary tier, and I think the fact that Nina, the length that she went through, and how she pushed herself, and what she did to her body, her entire story, I think she will be... I think that one single performance makes her a legend, but like not like the like top tier legend, if that makes sense, because I think that there's always legends, but like that doesn't make her like
the best ever.
I need the best ever, you know. So I think that performance makes her like, it was a phenomenal performance that people will talk about for a very long time, but I don't even think that performance alone makes Nina a straight up greatest of all time legend, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I fully agree with you. I think that She like I don't think she's the best ever. I think she fulfilled her role as being the Swan Queen. Like she did it. Like it would it wasn't it wasn't being the best ever. It was, can you fulfill this role? And she did it. Like even in the beginning of the movie, she wanted to be like somebody else. She wanted to be like this other character whose name I believe was it Beth? Yeah, this other character Beth, who was the previous Swan Queen, who ended up apparently, we're not sure for sure, but apparently trying to kill herself because the role was taken from her.
That's what I was gonna ask you. But, so that's going to be part of my prediction almost.
Okay.
So I also think that not only does she put on this legendary performance that people attach her to, but I think that Nina murdered Beth.
Ooh, so you do think that happened?
I think Nina murdered Beth, and I think that she becomes infamous as the person who like took out this. I mean, for all we know, Beth is a very well-liked dancer, ballet dancer.
There's no reason for us to think any different.
Like, I mean, everyone was really sad that she was retiring and that she wasn't performing anymore. So, like, there's no reason for me to believe that Beth wasn't, like at least outwardly well-liked. So I think the story comes around that Nina murdered Beth, and so like there's that kind of infamous stain that will be attached to her performance.
See, I thought it was...
And the owner...
Good.
I think... I'm going to say this knowing full well that, of course, like, it was like a psychological thriller and that maybe she never even visited Beth to begin with. And they're like, the reason that I'm saying that she murdered Beth is because, you see her leave the hospital with the bloody knife. And so if that were to have actually happened, I don't think Beth killed herself. I think that she killed Beth.
If that happened, I think she killed Beth.
If that happened.
Yeah, I don't think that happened.
No?
I think she might have went and visited her. I don't think the whole thing, though, happened. The whole interaction we saw, I don't think was real. But I do think she probably did leave the studio to go visit her real quick and then came back, though.
That's weird. Why would you just I don't know,
to return her things? I think she might have really actually returned the things, but I think the image of her stabbing herself and then the blood on the hands and all that, I think all that was fake. But I do think she actually went there to return the belongings.
Okay,
but I mean, who knows? I mean, like I said, we saw her completely murder and stab Lily, and then nothing did happen. So it really could be anywhere.
That's true.
So I like your idea. And I do agree with you that she achieved her status, but she's just one of the greats. She's not like Michael Jordan or something like that. She's not like the GOAT. But I like the idea though for a continuation where Lily, this way she focuses on Lily. Lily felt like she had her chance, but it got taken by Nina. She thought Nina was the White Swan, but Nina really was both. Nina was the White Swan and the Black Swan. Yes. And so then now that Nina's gone, Lily, the coach does the same thing with Lily. He cast Lily in the lead role, but he's like, Lily, you're just the Black Swan. I need the White Swan too. Okay. I need you to be the White Swan. I need like you're good. You're very sensual. You're very seductive. But your technique, you're not there yet. Practice. And then you start seeing, this is where it gets almost close. Once again, this is more, Lily's the Andrew for Whiplash.
This is when they bring in Fletcher.
Honestly.
Black Swan 2 is when they bring in Fletcher to be Lily's
dude, honestly. Because like she needs the perfection level of it. And so Fletcher comes in and then completely tears Lily apart. But Lily's, as we can tell, Lily's very strong though. And so Lily takes it, and then Lily gets her dancing to literal perfection. That would be my sequel.
I like that. I like that a lot. Cool. So let's kind of get to our rating scale here. For those of you, this is our first episode. You should have stopped by now and listened to at least Whiplash for this to make a little bit more sense. But if you're still here, welcome. Glad you're still here with us. We use a popcorn bag rating scale, and so what that means is if we give something a small, think of it as like a 1 to 3, like it really wasn't good, not worth your time. If we give it a medium bag, it was good, put it on your watch list, but it could wait a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If we give it a large, it means 7 to 9, really good. Put it towards the top of your watch list. And if you give it a big bucket, 10 out of 10, stop what you're doing, stop ballet practice, and watch this movie. And so, Marquise, I kind of have an idea where you're going to go with this, but where maybe you'll surprise me here. Where do you rate Black Swan in our popcorn rating scale?
So first off, I just want to say, if you like psychological thrillers, like if you're a Shutter Island fan, but then also if you're a fan, obviously, of something like Whiplash, if you're a fan of just intense thrillers, you should watch this. Because I did not come in this movie expecting a intense thriller. I was coming in it because I wanted the whole obsession of the obsessed artist thing, So that's what drew me in. But simply, even if you don't care about that, even if you just like psychological thrillers, you should watch this film. So, with all that being said, I'm giving this a big bucket. This 100% gets a big bucket for me. Like even though obviously I made a lot of comparisons with Whiplash, and I said I like Whiplash more in places, I think this movie on its own is amazing. I think the multiple layers and dimensions to it are amazing. I think it's a great written story. I think the kind of like introspectiveness of it, of like the reworking a play called Swan Lake, and then the play's playing out in the movie, and then when you're watching the movie, you actually feel like you're part of the ballet. It's just the movie has so many like depths to it, and so it's very complex, and all the actors give great performances. Not one person did a bad performance. The story was great. It's entertaining from the start to the end. There's no boring parts. Like I thought this was strive for perfection. I thought this was a great movie.
Yeah.
So this is a big bucket. What about you?
I'm right there with you. I'm giving this a big bucket. I really would have been surprised if you said large. I was kind of putting in the back of my mind, like he could say large here. Like he could be like, I don't know, I really liked Whiplash more.
No, this is great.
But no. This was definitely big bucket material for me. I think it has everything you're looking for. I think it also just stands the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not to say that 2010 is that long ago, but it is a decade or a little bit more than a decade now. So, you're never really sure if they do stand up. Mm-hmm. But I think that I think Black Swan is an amazing movie. I don't remember if this was like the biggest movie for Natalie Portman at the time, but like. Mila Kunis too. I also learned that Mila Kunis does not age. Like, she's one of those people that just does not age because she looks the exact same.
Also, isn't that odd that that both Mila Kunis and Natalie Portman then played in two movies that were like the same movie that dropped the same year? Friends with Benefits and No Strings Attached.
Yes.
Like, it was weird. They both played in the same basic movie that came out the same year.
Maybe we've been misinterpreting this whole movie the whole time. Maybe this was really just about to see which one did the storyline better. It's because it's literally...
Wow, they literally are competing for roles. They're literally competing for roles.
Friends with Benefits, was that the one with Natalie Portman, or was that the one with...
I think that's the one with Natalie Portman, but let me check.
I think that was... Because Justin Timberlake was in that one.
Let me make sure. No, that's Mila Kunis. That's Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis. Wow. That came out 2011. Yeah. Friends with Benefits was...
And then what was...
No Strings Attached.
No Strings Attached. Let me look up that one really quick.
I think it was same year. Same year, 2011.
And that's hilarious because it's with Ashton Kutcher. That's so funny. That's literally why I was like, No Strings Attached. I think because I knew Ashton Kutcher and Justin Timberlake were the dudes.
That's crazy.
But like, I thought because it was Ashton Kutcher that it was going to be Mila Kunis, but like, that is amazing.
But what's even weirder is that Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis have a movie together with their Friends with Benefits. It's called Spread. It's so wild. Wow. What a weird universe.
How wild. This is wild. Maybe that's where the tension grew.
They were really competing for roles, dude. Like, I think this was like a legit film.
That's wild.
And they were like, they both did great. We'll just make two movies.
Yeah. So, that all being said, audience, what did you all think of our continuation of Black Swan? Do you agree? what was your what? Do you remember when you started seeing smartphones instead of flip phones? I really just want to know when that transition happened. Please follow us on Twitter at Poppin Predict and on Instagram at poppinpredictions.pod to let us know your thoughts on how you think this movie could continue. If you haven't heard already, we have a YouTube channel where all of our episodes go from Anchor to like normal platforms as well as YouTube now. So go ahead, subscribe, punch that like button in the face, being all Jacksepticeye like here. Until then, keep popping, everyone.
Peace, y'all.